right, welcome back to Relatively Conscious. My name is Thomas Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Shout out DJ for making our beat.
That's at DW Made That on social media.
Follow social media.
That's at Kinda Woke on Instagram and Twitter. Relatively Conscious everywhere else. Like, subscribe, follow, share, retweet. Don't freak out because I'm not here. You know what I'm saying? I'm here, but I'm not here because I'm in Africa. I'm a Peace Corps volunteer. And, if you're serving where the service is needed, that means sometimes you don't have internet connection, at least not enough connection to show your face.
If you're serving where the service is needed, you might not have service. Hey, boy.
Oh wow, I didn't see that coming. That's pretty good.
All right. So speaking of rap music, I want to talk about Noname and Gatekeeping Black music. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put up on the screen. Noname had I guess like a little she put it on Instagram. So basically she was her thoughts, like, and I basically put it in like her Google Notes, her thoughts about music and Black History Month and whether or not Black people should gatekeep Black music. And I'm gonna post them right now so you can pause the screen and read them. But I kind of want to talk about it. Did you get a chance to read it?
Yes,
General scope. Did you agree or disagree?
I gotta disagree. The history is, I respect artists and their view of their own art, but just the fact that artists create art and even good art, I like Noname. I like her raps, I like her music.
Yeah.
That doesn't make them like an expert on the subject matter. Not even necessarily on the music industry as it is today, especially not in light of the past. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I just don't agree with the take, but Noname is still cool.
Yeah, I originally did not agree with the take. One thing I always say this, I'm trying to get better at. It's on that Ezra Klein, the New York Times columnist, says is utopia building. Don't immediately discount a take because it's utopia building, basically. Like it's a take meant to say, what if the world was like this type of deal. Most of those takes are not really fleshed out. Most of them come from the left and they're really like, maybe out there. But instead of dismissing it, we can like kind of play with it, figure out, well, what would we want the world to look like, and then kind of move backwards, basically. So I immediately was like, what is this mess? And then I was like, okay, well, let's try to really play with this, see what she's talking about. I still couldn't get there though. I still had some issues with it. So let's kind of start from the top. Can you own your own culture? That's probably my first question. That seems to be the premise she's trying to make. And I mean, thought about Italian Americans with their culture, and then the Jewish people with their culture, Jewish Americans. And I was like, they don't really own their own culture. And Jewish Americans a little bit different because um, they do have a bigger print in Hollywood, but that's not owning culture. That's just having been in the right place at the right time as Hollywood's being built. And even Italian Americans, why they were the ones who directed and played in movies like The Godfather. Um, it's not like they own those movies. Paramount still owns those movies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. It's like, there was a bunch of Thai Americans who were the extras, who were everything else. But still at the end of the day, it's still a Paramount movie. Even The Sopranos still an HBO TV show. They make the money whenever you watch the reruns, not Italian Americans. So I don't know if you could actually own your own culture.
No, you can't. Like, unless it is literally sacred, and then people still might just choose to disrespect that. But unless it is sacred, no. Like, and the sacred stuff we just agree to not violate. But let's take, for example, the N word.
Right.
A favorite topic to discuss. The word nigga. I say it. I'm black. I can say it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's like sacred in the sense that it's like so profane that it's inutterable. Who should not be named type of vibe.
Yeah.
Shout out J.K. Rowling, or don't shout out J.K. Rowling for being a turf. But yeah, so like, and people still say it who aren't black, either in with intent to harm, or just trying to be cool, trying to be one of the guys. And we all get to say it, right? People continually do that. It hasn't become something that is acceptable en masse for people to transgress. But no matter how much like trouble people get into, it's just yeah, I mean, it's just culture. Like it's just like you exist near me, and I see you doing something cool. I want to do it,
Yeah,
and some people are going to be bold enough to cross that line, even if you say it's prohibited.
yeah. Like in 2016, we came to the point where it was highly possible that there was a video out there of Donald Trump saying the N word. I definitely believe that he could have said that word on video and still got elected in 2016. And that would have been a major moment. Like we would have really like had to grip with the fact that no one owns that word and people don't care
Right.
anymore. And maybe it probably would have been better if it had happened. Um, so we could really talk about it. But I felt like that was really going to happen. I feel like I really had to sit down and think about the fact that it really just didn't matter. You know, it wasn't the 90s anymore. You could transgress that ground and probably still get elected president. You know, um, probably because the other person was a woman. Probably because it was Hillary Clinton. You know, it's saying a lot of stuff about America, but I think that was true. Um, do we even want to own culture? It's like a thing. Is that a good thing to own your own culture?
Hmm. I don't think so. Because we gotta have the dialogue, we gotta have the exchange.
Yeah,
Uh, the amount of bars and iconography stolen, and stolen, huge quotes around stolen. Um, but stolen from like Italian culture in particular. Yeah, rappers love Italian American crime culture, and it's like the films like you're talking about, the real stories that inspire the films are all throughout hip hop, especially anything gangsta, anything from the streets, and that provides like a dope dialogue between cultures, between art, where one thing is inspiring another thing, and then someone let's take a real example. Then Japanese artists are inspired by hip hop and create their own street culture around that in its own iteration. Then flip it around, we got K-pop, which takes the R&B and the hip hop, and then they put a new spin on it. I mean, the world is just, especially in an internet connected world, when we're connected by fiber optic cables and Wi-Fi connections and whatnot. We're blocking our own blessings, saying that people can't touch our stuff because people are making all kind of dope stuff inspired by people from across the globe.
yeah. It's almost like to say. I've seen this take before too that people like K-pop should like pay homage or like some form of like give us money for making K-pop, and
Hilarious.
I find it to be hilarious in very many different iterations. But I'm like, they should be allowed to exist, and they shouldn't have to like give us penance every time they make a song. That's weird, you know.
That
That's
is weird.
yeah, like it's this, they find it funny and they find it fun, they find it entertaining, and they want to do their own thing on it. They should be allowed to. This kind of comes from the whole idea that like black people started everything and therefore everything is from us. And y'all wouldn't have anything without us, and therefore y'all should give us something, which comes from I think a good place. I think it comes from like a good place, but I think it's when it stretches all the way out, it gets to be really really weird. If that makes sense.
Okay, yes. I think it's just we're just hurt. We're hurt people. We're bruised. And every
Yeah,
time somebody, touches that area, we're like, ow, it hurts, even though it's just a gentle touch. Could be a loving caress, but it's a bruise, and so we're feeling extreme pain from having literal ideas in music and culture and art and credit, knowledge stolen from especially Afro Americans. And of course, we weren't giving credit. And so people like actually lost the money and they actually lost the credit for the art. In the past, that happens on occasion today because the music industry is still like terrible. It's still really corrupt.
yeah,
But whenever somebody just does reiterate, and of course, by the way, all the time that Black people are innovating, we're constantly um, borrowing from the past because nothing is original. So, you know, Black people in America, though we're incredibly creative, the sample is a thing. Like hip hop is pulling from Italian composers and Turkish composers and banjo players and everything under the sun to make the dope music that we're listening to now. Chinese movies, whatever. But when somebody from Korea loves Boys to Men, it wants to do their own spin, wants to sound like Wanye, then we want to get mad because it feels like Elvis Presley all over again, but it is not. That
Yeah,
is not the same thing.
yeah. Like you don't get 36 Chambers without Japanese samurai movies, basically. You
Yeah,
know, and it'd be very weird if Japan came over and was like, you know what? Every time you listen to Wu Tang, you need to give us some money for that. Every time
they
you
really
say,
could. I feel like that. I mean, legally, they got a lot of grounds for that.
yeah, every time you say that coming straight out of Shaolin, I need money for that. That's yeah.
You gotta pay the Shaolin Temple. You can't just use our name like that.
Yeah. But that's not what they do because they just is a interpolation is a word I'm learning that's very
Yeah, there
interesting.
you go.
Yeah, it's interpolation, and it's a mix, and I think it's dope. One claim she made that I want to touch on is that white people do not help like right now because the struggle made the blueprint. She didn't say blueprint, but the struggle made blueprint. The struggle made is dark and hell is hot, basically. And without the struggle, you don't get dope rap music. Except for white people don't lift the finger to help black people because they want our dope music. I found that to be absurd.
That's pretty wild. Maybe some individuals that she knows have exhibited a kind of fetishization, and actually a lot of people, not even people she knows. Let me stop. Noname is noticing a real phenomenon where people fetishize the struggle. People look at poor people and are like, "Wow, they're so resilient. Oh my god!" Or they have so little and they make it look so good, and doing all kind of weird stuff like that. Where instead of seeing struggle and wanting to help like a human should, they see struggle and are just impressed and start like foaming at the mouth because like, oh man, the blueprint is so beautiful, and he used to sell crack and he stabbed his own brother. It's so good. It's like yo. All that's true, but the main thing is, dude had to sell crack and stab his own brother. Can we stop that from happening?
Yeah,
But some people are so disconnected that they lose it. They lose track of what's really going on. I don't think that's all of white America though. Even though there's some extremely privileged folk who can't see past their own nose, I don't think that's like, you know, the grand conspiracy that Noname is putting up.
I think this is one of those things that happens a lot when there's motive, intent, and motive given to actions that I don't think is there. You know, so I don't think people are making a conscious effort to be like, I love the blueprint, so let me not help black people. Basically,
Right, right.
I think it's more so of I find the struggle to be expiring, and so I talk about it a little bit too weirdly. That's not the right word. Um, I love the struggle, so I talk about it in a weird way that rubs people the wrong way, But my intent is not to be like I don't want to help black people because of the struggle. It makes good music. Um, Also, I think some people, if you told them that there was like if you told them about themselves, I think they would listen to what you have to say and probably change how they speak about it. But I don't think there's evil intent here. It's not Dr. Evil going a million. That's a Austin Powers reference. I don't know if nobody caught that.
Yeah, $1 million. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what's going on right now. That makes sense.
Yes, no, yeah, I got you. I agree. It's not an evil plot, but I think the apathy still matters.
Yeah.
And when it comes to protecting your culture, it's like I do feel the struggle. And Noname has talked about this before before she announced her hypocrite tour. When she was talking about which is a hilariously entitled tour. I don't even think she went on it because it was scheduled for 2020. But
Yeah.
the whole hypocrite idea was that she said she was no longer performing for white people because she's tired of she wrote these songs for us, but every time she goes to a show, it's a bunch of white people, and she's like, you know what, this sucks. Y'all don't hear what I'm talking about. Y'all not really understanding the intent behind my words. So forget it. And that is a struggle I understand. That I can get with. I don't think it's some evil conspiracy, but I do appreciate like wanting to reach a particular audience and being frustrated. I feel her frustration in saying that, like, well, it must be some diabolical scheme. Because why else would these people who clearly demonstrate that they don't understand what I'm talking about with their actions continue to listen as if they understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, okay, her historical argument is that blues and jazz was created and was kept down because white people loved the struggle so much that they wanted to keep making blues and jazz. That one seems to be weird to me.
No, it's a different malicious vibe.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like. I mean, like, yeah, sure. Like in the early 20th century, when because blues and jazz like have existed for a while, but at the advent of recorded music and like radio
Yeah.
and stuff, the early 20th century, they were keeping black people down for every reason conceivable.
Yeah.
White people were doing everything that they could to make sure black people did not have anything that looked like progress. So yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't about producing more blues music. There's enough. We've been oppressing black people so well that there's a blues artist around every corner around here.
Yeah.
There's some blind guy playing piano. There's somebody playing the banjo. There's somebody singing, humming, and hemming over there. It's real easy to find oppressed black folk making great art in like 1920.
Yes. Yeah. There's a whole I can go to Harlem and just find poets on every corner, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Dude. It's too easy.
so here's my next question as you come down to it. Do black artists have responsibility to black people when they make music? Like if like ASAP says and said something about this, but like does ASAP have a responsibility to the struggle every time he puts out an album?
Not about when he puts out the album, but like I mean, I think it's just all people with wealth have a responsibility to people who don't have it to do something. I don't know exactly what that something looks like. Build a school, donate, feed somebody, do something to help alleviate the struggle. A scholarship, you know what I'm saying? Something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that's true for everybody. ASAP Rocky or Freddie Gibbs or Griselda, West Side Gun and them, all the rappers, all the artists.
Yeah, I want to say yes, but part of me is like I don't know, like Chance the Rapper when he made ASAP made Acid Rap, and he's sitting in the basement of his house, just rapping over some beats, stolen beats, by the way, and he's just trying to make it. Do I have to be like, hey, Chance, you have responsibility right now to do something for black people. So whatever little money you get, this is a shot in the dark. You don't know if you're gonna get famous off of this. Whatever little money you make, it's got to go to black people.
Okay, well, no, not every penny from the jump. But that's what I say. People with wealth. ASAP Rocky's got a little something, especially since he's with Rihanna. He's got a little bit of money now.
Yeah.
And at this point, you could help somebody out. But I wouldn't expect. I don't know who's struggling right now, but the broke artist, the struggling cat. Odyssey,
Yeah.
I love Odyssey. He's got some money now too, but still, most people don't know who he is. And dude's been rapping. He does a good job, but he's not driving around in the Aston Martin or what are those called?
Rolls Royce.
McLaren.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
McLaren.
He's not doing any of that.
Yeah,
Once you cop the Italian, you know what I'm saying? Once you're in the Lamborghini, it's time to start giving back. That's the sign.
yeah. Like if I go to Joey B when he was making 1999 and I'm like, where's my money at, nigga? He's gonna be like, I'm at home.
Yeah, right.
I'm at my mama's house right now. We barely trying to make it. What are you talking about? That feels weird. And so I think there's a responsibility there at some point, but I do think like it really feels really weird at the jump off to be like, okay, where it isn't now. I don't know. Maybe it's like a responsibility that every black person has to do right by us, but I don't know how far out we want to put that responsibility. Like, what is the burden they hold and how much of a burden it is? Can you alleviate it by just giving $10,000 to PV and can you call it a day, Or do you need more? There's got to be more and more, Because I did this with like Michael Jordan all the time. They're like, what has he done for us? And he'll point to the scholarships, the money he gave, to the United Negro College Fund, which was a huge thing back in the day. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, NBA players used to play games in the summertime. Like Magic Johnson used to have like a all-star game, basically, where players he knew person would come out to like a court and play, and it'll give money to UNICEF. Not UNICEF, the United Negro College Fund, basically, from that. And I don't know how much of that needs to be done before I'd be like, you've paid your burden. Does that make sense? Like, how much am I asking of these people before I say they've done enough? Because I feel like
that's. Oh, go ahead.
I feel like it's they can never do enough until they broke and they're giving everything. And I'm not Jesus. I'm not Jesus, and you're not the rich young ruler.
Yeah. You're right. People, I mean, nothing is ever enough though, for an audience, for like the public. The public always wants more. They want more bars. They want more music. They want more sex, more I don't know, more shows, more tours. Like if the audience had the way they wanted, artists would never rest. They just keep doing whatever it is. Athletes would never rest.
Yeah,
they would play injured. People like, oh, he always injured. He always on the bench. He's a professional basketball player. Your body could never handle the stress that his body is under. You gotta relax. Dude's gotta, take some days off.
Yeah.
So yeah, if the audience had their way, it would always be an endless, bottomless list of demands. But from somebody like Noname, who knows, what goes into it, I would expect her critique to stop somewhere reasonable. I don't know. I can't speak for her.
Yeah.
But I think, what I'm saying, just doing something, because there is a great amount of artists and a great amount of consumers and a great amount of captains of industry within music who care not at all for the plight of suffering people, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
but I don't believe in like counting people's money and you didn't donate enough. That's pretty ridiculous. That's what taxes are for, by the way.
Yeah. It's not a tithe. It's not a tithe. So what does gatekeeping music actually look like? So Noname had a proposal basically where every time you do a show, some money goes from that to a fund to like help and feed and house Black people. Or every time you release an album, part of that from the record company goes into a fund to help and feed and clothe Black people. And so basically, every time you do something that puts out music or you make money, part of that, when they pay you, they have to pay into the fund, basically. That seems not to be a ridiculous idea to me. It seems to be a somewhat of a reasonable solution. Who will be in charge of this fund, how we get distribute is, a whole bunch of other stuff that get worked out. And that's probably where a lot of these ideals die, is when it gets to the granular details, But part of me also says, but we had the same issue. We talked about paying college players for a long amount of time. We just didn't want to do it because when we got to the details, it's going to be too difficult. And the Supreme Court just said you have to do it, basically. Like, you have to pay them. And at that point, we just started doing it. And it's still messy, still not complete, figured out. There's still a lot of kinks in the system, but we're doing it at least. College players are getting paid at least for their likeness and image. I wonder if part of Noname's take that we should take from it is that something should be done and we should just move towards a solution that makes sense to us and then figure out details later on.
Yes. I feel like a nonprofit or maybe a for-profit. This is actually why it sounds like a capitalist opportunity for a middleman to jump in and say, hey, artists, which I'm pretty sure this already exists, but a middleman to jump in and say, hey, artists, you want to look socially responsible? Give to our organization and we'll make sure it goes to the right people. I'm sure that already has existed, and I'm sure they already got in trouble for stealing money, but it's too easy. It's too easy. It's actually possible. Also, what we could do is make people pay their taxes, because I'm sure all these artists that we're talking about, Black or otherwise, just don't, because they have lawyers and foreign bank accounts, and they have an accountant who does their job. But if we didn't build out those loopholes, then this problem would kind of take care of itself. I mean, the American government would be more equipped to, to help out the poor, as we have the programs to do that, but they're all underfunded. They're all in dire straits because people just refuse to do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. So I guess my final, to bring it all home, is that her point. I point taken. I see her point. I see what she's trying to get at. I think there can be a solution where, at some, our music or our likeness or even us playing sports can be used in a way to support the community. Though I question how much of a burden. I don't want to become a tithe where I'm the pastor on Sunday morning. I'm looking at you and I'm like, did you put anything in the plate today, sir? Your check bounced. Get out my church type of deal. to quote in living color. But I see her point, and I do think there is a place for us to support our communities with our music and our contributing to culture. How we contribute to culture. But it also would be a lot easier if people pay their taxes and the federal government just use that money correctly. Because then I could be like, I pay my taxes, you got what you needed. I paid my tithe, it's taxes. IRS took that from me already. You got it.
Yeah, I just realized rappers actually do get in trouble for not paying their taxes because they don't hire the right accountants. At least has happened in the past. So, yeah. The most socially responsible rich people, in fact, are hip hoppers. But for everybody else, either pay up to the United Negro College Fund, or Noname is coming for you.
Yeah. Everybody, it's Thomas Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Peace.
Do it to him,